So you've got your first aid kit. You've got the toolbox in the garage with all of your tools. Today, we're here to share with you your brain toolbox. Yes, that's right. A toolbox of pattern interrupters because you're not here to play small. You've come here to play big. And we know that when you're up to play a big game, your brain is here to keep you safe and right here where you are. No more, no, right, Carol? We are pumped up about today's episode to
Yeah.
really dive into a toolbox of pattern interrupters that we have thought up, in our experiences over the last couple of years so we could share this with you. So in those moments, we can feel the resistance. You have these pattern interruptions to turn to and to help you break through and create some bigger results in your life.
So true. One of the things that in dealing on the wealth side of things with money, money often has strong emotions attached to it. And I even had somebody say, I would rather talk about sex than about money because of the emotions that are attached to it. And I asked my clients today, have you ever had any anxiety or panic when you're going to deal with finances? And every single one of them said yes. It's very common. Why does this happen? These are the things that Alex and I talk about with you to get underneath of. But one of the ways that we can move forward in dealing with the triggers that come up, the emotional triggers around money, is to have a toolbox. It's a toolbox of pattern interrupters. So what pattern are we interrupting here? Well, we're interrupting that anxiety, the fear, the triggers, the frustration, the overwhelm, the disappointment, the guilt and shame that show up that drive those strong emotions that we have or that we experience specifically in regard to money. But this goes far beyond that. It goes beyond just money. This is my area that I specifically deal in, but it also has to do with leadership. It has to do with any area in your life where you're wanting to lean into knowing you deserve more, you meant for more, and looking at ways that we can shift those triggers in the immediate and work alongside the long-term work that you and I do, right, Alex?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and we recorded like our previous episode we just recorded too about looking at that discomfort,
Yeah.
right? Like the brain, like the body is going to feel some discomfort. And so when you can have those go-to, like the go-to tool, the go-tos in the toolbox,
Yeah.
it's you're supporting your brain with that decide in advance. So you already know what to lean into when that step or that arises. And the tools today are things that you can do fairly easily, right? When you're in a crowd, or
Yeah.
by yourself, but things that you can just turn to that people around you may not necessarily notice, which can also help with just feeling more comfortable knowing, hey, I've got things I can turn to, and it doesn't have to be this big, massive, thing that is going to catch a bunch of attention. I can help regulate myself with these tools, in a safe space to
Yeah.
help regulate myself in these moments. So for you, Carol, I'd love to know your go-to, like based
Yeah.
on some of the tools we're going to talk about. What would you say that is your default?
My default has become breathing exercises to reset my nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
Because our subconscious is not only housed in the brain and our heads, it's throughout the body, it's throughout our spinal column. And when we start to understand how our system works, it really helps to know what's happening when our nervous system gets triggered. Maybe our vagus nerve gets triggered. And, we start to feel that knot in the stomach, that tension in the shoulders, and start to feel upset. We may feel out of breath, panic rising, and being able to just operate by a couple of different breathing exercises has been transformational. So that's my go-to. And I want to point out that, Alex, We have an episode from Jen Broyles on breathing that was so great, right? And so,
Hmm.
listen, we just invite you to go and listen to that episode. Let's see, it was 119, episode 119 with Jen Broyles. She was one of our guest experts in the area of breathing. And that slowdown and reset gives me the pause I need to be grounded and come back and be able to, not give my power away. So, what's one of yours?
So I have, I guess there's the one that I've been using a lot right now. And then there's another favorite that I have. So the first one is related to the breath as well. And what I say with the breath is just bless and release, right? So
Yeah,
I'm really giving my body like the signal to just to release it. So, breathe in and then just bless and release, right? And just like I probably
I
actually,
like
if
to say
if you
that.
can see this, I might actually move my body. So
Yeah,
I do like the movement of body a little bit more to like actually allow the energy to process through. The other one, it's not a default of mine yet, but when I do it, I do love it, and it is tapping. I
yeah,
really do the tapping. I think I just, as a person, I like the movement piece. I know I said before we're going to share things with you that don't require movement. I
yeah.
am somebody that just enjoys movement. It does allow me to process it easier. So I do like the tapping. But I know, Carol, that we have talked before, and I remember you sharing. I think you were inside a car at the same time, and you just kind of tapped your wrist or something, like kind of
Mhm.
on the pressure point. So you're able to do tapping in a more say secret way. Like there are ways
Yeah,
to do tapping where people may not notice it
yeah.
as well. So
There's a
I would
couple of
say
ways. Yeah,
yeah.
you
So
can.
what are I think more of like I'm all into
Well,
the
I
tap.
like the fact that you brought up movement, and I want to refer us back to episode 121 about how the body knows the score.
Mhm.
And movement is a great way to have a pattern interrupt and start to release. We produce endorphins when we move. Our bodies are designed and meant to move. It's a beautiful, wonderful release that we have right there. And so, yeah, with the pattern interrupt, another one is acupressure. So, acupressure points, simply holding pressure in a certain point in a certain way, can be very, very powerful. And I have just enough knowledge to be dangerous, so I'm not going to tell you which ones do what. You can go look those up, but it's something that is a great way to relieve tension and reset. A little gentle hairband on the wrist and just a little snap of it can be a reminder, oh, I get to shift this spot. And rather than going down the rabbit trail, because what'll happen, especially with our negativity bias in place, is that we'll get in a spin. And, we want to be able to interrupt that negativity spin that takes us off course, gets us way over here, and make those small adjustments, such as a pressure point or a little snap of a band gently on the wrist that is going to be able to help you to get back on course, to take those pauses. What's another one of yours, Alex?
Yeah, as you were talking, it reminded me of another one that I notice it a lot more if I've got like the real heightened anxiety is my senses.
Yeah.
So so instead of the thoughts that are running and racing in my mind, and if the heart is you're getting warm and the heart is starting to pace rapidly, that's where I know, okay, I just get to get grounded. So again,
Yeah.
combining a lot with say the breathing, but it really is just, okay, what do I like connecting with my feet on the ground? What do I
Mhm.
feel? I can feel
Yeah.
my feet on the ground. I can feel my legs on the chair. I can see my wrist on uh, the the desk here. I can hear the planes in the sky. I can see Carol. I can, taste the water. Like
Yeah.
just really going through my five senses and even just like
Mhm.
counting out on my fingers to go through all the different senses that has really supported in just like getting grounded,
Yeah.
right? I think that's what's powerful is like really getting grounded to the ground,
Yeah.
especially if we feel like we're out of control and right. And so it's just it is coming back into control and reminding ourselves that we're safe. I think it's a
Yeah.
big thing is like, that you are
To
safe and
me,
being grounded in that piece.
when you're talking about the grounding, it puts us back in the present. And the
Yes.
beauty of putting ourselves in the present is there is no past. We're not thinking about the future and allowing our heads spin into how do we figure things out, or, all of the things that can come in that cloud us, and we're staying in the present. And I think that's really key when we're talking about feeling safe. And in our last episode, we were talking about embracing discomfort, because discomfort will happen when you are making change, when you are growing, because of the way that we're wired, the way our systems operate. Learning how to pattern interrupt, use these tools, bring yourself back to the grounding, being in the present is such a key piece in being able to start to put your system to work for you, right? It's so important when we put our systems to work for us rather than have them work against us, be trying to take us back into the old way of doing things, the faulty patterns and habits. And yet we can recognize, okay, I'm uncomfortable for a reason, and I can embrace that. And I can put this to work for me by simply grounding and being in the present. I also like excusing myself,
Mm,
especially when I'm in the presence of another. And this has been a really important way for me to set an appropriate boundary, to recognize that I don't have to give my power away to anyone or anything else. So if, it's a situation where another person's not present, maybe it's technology I'm dealing with, or, some situation like that, simply getting up, maybe not going on a walk, not moving in that way, but going and taking a pause in a different place, like going to the bathroom and closing the door, or, um, being able to put myself into a hallway, leave a conference room, for example, be able to um, pause for a moment by removing myself from that environment can really help me to gather my senses around. And it's a great way to not allow me to be giving things away that I'm not really being intentional about. It's an emotional trigger. So,
yeah. I think I learned something. It was when we had Eric on the podcast a
Eric
few
Zuli,
yeah.
yeah,
No, Eric Antoinette.
Eric Antoinette, yeah.
Yeah,
Shout
is
out to
that
both Erics.
when if you are in a situation where you do excuse yourself, make like it's important to verbalize it because I remember Eric mentioned something about sometimes somebody else could be triggered feeling of that thing of abandonment.
Yeah,
And so I think just like again, it all depends on the situation,
yeah,
but just being mindful of that,
yeah,
to communicate what what is like not necessarily I like that's why I love the idea of excusing yourself to the bathroom because
yeah,
we all have to go to the bathroom. And so the other person's brain might not go into a story, right? But it's just be I think it's important to just be kind of mindful of that
mhm,
um process um of when you're removing yourself from a situation
yeah.
in those moments because part of what we're talking about today is those pattern interrupts to get you back to that grounded state. So I think just
I think
right, the
that's
last thing is like creating more heat of a situation
right,
in this
right.
situation, right? Versus that. So I just wanted to answer in that because when you said that, I just remembered Eric
Mhm,
talking about that. And especially if it's in a relationship or,
yeah,
you're excusing yourself because of two people in the same space. I think it's just important to presence that for that to be in our mind. If that tends to be the
yeah.
default that we do
I'm gonna
excuse.
leave this situation and come back. I will bring up one of the things that I have heard repeatedly from women who have found themselves in relationship with narcissists is that experience can be where somebody is just baiting you to react, baiting
Hmm.
you to, they want the drama, they're used to the drama. We even get to look at our own egos in that way. Am I inviting in drama? Do I have this pattern? Because it's been wired in because I'm so used to operating this way. In those situations, I agree it's really important to use your voice, set a firm boundary. Um, and it's important to address one of the things that I have experienced in my life and that clients I have worked with in these situations is there then what happens is they're being baited to stay, baited to stay, baited to stay. So that can be something where I really want to lean into you, empower you to stand firm in setting your boundary. And it can be also innocent things. If you're in a conversation where there's history in the background and trauma in the background, then unintentionally you may be thinking you're going to walk away and something's brought up, and then you go off into a tangent discussing it. So this is where these pattern interrupts are so powerful, and you have a whole toolbox of them because it's more than one. So you may not be able to take that particular moment to breathe, but you can, for instance, do the acupressure point. Alex, you brought up one earlier that I want to bring in here of gathering your fists really tight, or if you're holding a pen, right? Holding a pen. So would you describe that one? Because that's another one to assist you in filling your cup up first, putting your oxygen mask on, not giving your power away, and being able to retain it for yourself, recognize where there may be a pattern of drama that you are wanting to be in a reset nervous system and in a new way of doing things with.
Yeah, one was also curling your toes. So if you are wearing closed toe shoes, you can just curl your toes up at the front of the shoe and then release. So it's just a matter of curling. You do want to curl
Yeah,
your toes really, really tight. I mean, you can also do the same thing with your hand, but people can sometimes see your hand, so it might be a little bit more reasonable.
yeah,
Or sorry, it might be easier to with your toes. The other one
yeah,
was with a pen. If you're already holding a pen, it's less noticeable, right? So just taking the pen and then just like squeezing really, 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 really hard and then
yeah,
releasing, right? And
yeah,
squeezing really, really hard, count a couple seconds. What I find, which is really nice, is that even with the squeezing the pen, you can take like slower deep breaths because sometimes, if you do it's a little bit
yeah,
more noticeable, but just being connected with the breath, right? So
yeah,
holding, being very connected with the breath, being mindful of the breath, um, can just support again with that
yeah.
regulation, right? With the parasympathetic um
Nervous system.
nervous system.
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah, like or all of these words are
yeah,
firing at me,
yeah,
and right, and it's that grounded state, right? Like that's what,
yeah,
and that's it. I mean, even with the pen in hand, it's another grounding technique, like feeling like connecting with your feet on the ground, right?
yeah,
Sometimes our bodies require a little bit of support to help process it. That's why things like tightening
yeah,
up and releasing. I actually saw on Instagram the other week, like say if you're in the kitchen and there you've got like your like a kitchen towel or something like for washing dishes, same thing. You could squeeze it really, really, really tight and you can let it go, or you can actually wring something really,
yeah,
really tight. So there what I'm learning is if you just even take a second to look around your room, there's things there that can help you.
yeah,
Some of the less obvious things like maybe a stress ball that you can still support you,
yeah,
and it's just great to know that there's things there, right? Whether it is,
yeah,
the pressure point or a little elastic, that there's many ways for you to be empowered, right?
mhm,
I think the most
yeah,
important is just choosing in advance, deciding in advance what you want your default to be, right? And I think
yeah,
that's really the intention of today is we've shared quite a few different modalities of ways to
Mhm.
support you with those pattern interrupts,
Yeah.
and what is the thing that feels most aligned for you. And I would even say, like, just take a second to reflect on situations like
Yeah.
where maybe in the past would some of these pattern interrupts been very helpful, so that in the future they're ready waiting for you to turn
You
to.
have a
And I
whole lineup. Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna say even heart and favorite this episode, right? So you can always come back to it and like, okay, what right? What were those tools that Carol and Alex shared? Again, that's gonna support me.
What's in your
And
toolbox?
yeah, I love the visual of the toolbox too, right?
Yeah.
Like all of
Yeah.
that. Um, and I think I mean, this can be a pattern interrupt. Obviously, this is a tool that we use with all of our clients, which is our brain prime, right?
Yes.
If you have your brain prime, it's a beautiful example of daily, multiple times a day that you would turn to this. So,
Yeah.
Carol, do you want to speak a little bit about? I mean, we've got multiple episodes and we are going to link
Yeah.
them here to talk about the brain prime, but tell us, because I think you're a great example of how you turn to the brain prime as a pattern interrupt,
Yeah.
on your day to day or in your day to day.
Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful thing that we have this gift. So when we're talking about brain priming, this is the neuroscience form of affirmations that is actually very accelerating. Speaking to our episode, make sure you go listen to the episode on accelerating your results. We talk about the brain prime, what is it, in episode 153. And I think there's another one I wrote down. Episode 21, we talk about getting what you want. That's part of the brain priming. And the power of the RAS, we talk about in 155. I know I'm throwing a lot of episodes at you, but I want you to know that we've really specifically talked about this. The brain prime may not be a part of your pattern interrupt when you're in the presence of somebody else. It certainly wouldn't be. However, it can be used anytime, all times of day. It is something that is inspirational. We actually really teach a lot about this. I give whole workshops on how to create an effective brain prime. And so this is something where um, for me, when I have the space to do this, to go out for a walk, to get away, I'm turning on that brain prime. And I'm being reminded of who I am in that brain prime. It's my identity. It's taking me into the true identity of myself. So a lot of it has to do with me in my healing journey rather than being in a pattern of disruption, a pattern of drama, a pattern of overwhelm or frustration, putting a halt to that by reminding myself exactly who I am. And Alex, in my wealth activation, I share a little mini course about brain priming and what that means. So I invite you to get that. It's completely free, that wealth activation. We put it in the show notes. And using it as a tool at any and all times of the day. You can, if you have the alone time, you can listen to it as many times as you want. And just going back to that as a part of that beautiful toolbox that you have. And I don't know about you, but my toolbox, it is shiny and red, and it's a rectangle, it's about so big, and got a little weight to it. It's not too heavy though. It's easy to carry around, and I can open it up and go, oh, wow, my tools inside are shiny, they're sparkling, they look really good, because I'm a glitter girl and, I have to have glittery tools. So, being able to have that with me, have that mental image of that with me reminds me that I've got several small baby actions that I can take to interrupt the pattern that I'm in and to draw back to me the true and authentic power that I have, the love that I have. the faith that I have and be set aright and centered with a calm nervous system.
I love the visual of that toolbox, just knowing that it's there,
Yeah.
maybe in your top drawer in your desk, or maybe, even the visual of on your phone, right? Just knowing that it's there for you at all times. I mean, it's there in your podcast player because we're there to support you. Before we wrap up, Carol, you said one more thing that I think is something important to also in to put in the toolbox, which was getting outside.
Yes.
Right. There's nothing better
Yeah.
than going out and connecting with nature. And we're talking about grounding, like actually taking your shoes off and feeling the grass in
Yeah.
your feet, or going to touch a tree, or to just close your eyes and feel the sun on your face, right?
Yeah.
Like, or feeling the breeze on your face, like going back to those five senses.
Mhm.
Going outside
Yeah.
is definitely one way that's going to support
You're
that. And it's
taking
just
in vitamin D, you're getting an abundance of oxygen. Yes.
what's coming to me like in those moments is like when we do get that flush of emotion, it's
Mhm.
the reminder that it's just a moment, right?
Yes.
And being able to again interrupt what's going on by just even like the movement piece, but going outside can really support in that.
Yeah.
And beautiful reminder. Okay, I guess this is kind of two things that you said that I wanted to highlight there is the identity, right?
Yeah.
When you can shift into the new identity, the identity of the person who has the results that you're creating,
Mhm.
right? There's a bit of a sense of calm. And I think this leads into, we had our episode a few weeks ago about the it is done piece.
Yeah.
When we lean into identity, right? We lean
Yeah.
into it is done and surrender to this is just part of the process. And I'm grateful to have these tools in the moments when the brain's doing its job to keep us safe, to lean into and to support me in moving through this, because there's only one way to get to the other side. And it's really moving through the emotion, moving through the anxiety, moving
Yeah.
through the thoughts. It's all natural. This happens
Yeah.
to everybody. And it's who you are as a leader as you
Mhm.
move through this, and how you choose to move through it. That's what we're leaning into today as a
Yeah.
leader, and how you get to show up in this world.
That reminds me, Alex, that moving through piece. Also, when you are in a space where, you're not with somebody else and fisting, you're, balling up your fist, I should say. When you ball them up really tight, like you were talking about, one of the things that I've seen you do that is a beautiful picture is an action of release. So it's holding them tight, 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 breathing out, and literally releasing, letting the tension go, taking that pause, taking that space and the quiet and the nature piece. So we're going to have in the show notes some of these tools that are in our toolbox of pattern interrupters so that you can build your own toolbox. You can carry this with you, take it with you, and utilize it for your own healing to help your nervous system stay centered and balanced. So you will have clarity. You will begin to be able to use those senses in a way that are such a beneficial part of the toolbox, and be able to move forward with your goals and your dreams and the purpose that is written in your heart. So I can't wait
Because
to see you till next week. Yeah. So Alex, I want to share with everybody that if you are interested in finding out more about the Neuro Wealth Method, I close the gap of wealth for you to move into 7+ figures. And I have a private invite exclusive program for you. If you're interested in accelerating your results and finding out more about the work I do, please DM me on IG. I can't wait to share it with you.
leader, you are not here to follow the rules. You're here to rewrite them with belief, boldness, and wealth that aligns. And your website, it's to reflect that, because your expertise changes lives, and it's time that more people knew it. So until next time, stay unleashed and unstoppable.
Ciao for now. We'll see you next week.